What's going on, everybody? It is the Rum Champion, and today we are diving into another slice of rum history, the British Naval Rum Ration. Did you know that the British Royal Navy from the 1600s to the late 60s, mid 60s, late 60s-ish, somewhere in there, was the largest purchaser of rum in the world? And the reason for it is because every member of the British Royal Navy was given a daily rum ration called a tot. Rum was a huge commodity during this time as the European powers were colonizing all over the Caribbean and everywhere else. But the sugar boom that was happening resulted in molasses being used to distill rum. And as such, it was a commodity used as a form of payment for the sailors, trade. This concept of rum being in bottles didn't really come into play until much later on. So it was barrels. And when sailors were drinking rum, it was straight out of the barrel. Straight out the barrel. Another reason for this, so rum's a commodity. There's plenty of it going around the Caribbean as the British had colonized Jamaica, Barbados, Antigua, and many other islands. In addition, life at sea sucked for these sailors. Living conditions were absolutely deplorable. You were getting scurvy. That's a really nasty disease where you're vitamin C deficient and you have black blood, your teeth fall out. It's really nasty. In addition to that, chances are many of the sailors didn't even want to be on the boat in the first place. And the reason for that is because they were pressed into service by something called press gangs. Now, these press gangs were groups of people who would hunt for able-bodied men, and they would do a few things. One, they'd meet you at the tavern, they'd get you a few beers, get you nice and satiated to the point where you blacked out, and they'd carry you away. If they lacked the time, or maybe you left the tavern, going down a dark alleyway, trying to get home from work or something like that, they'd knock you out, carry you away. And when you woke up, either hung over a giant lump in your head, you'd be looking at a British officer, more or less, or a British sailor, and they would be basically giving you a choice. Not even basically, they would be giving you a choice. Join His Majesty's Royal Navy or be thrown overboard. And as I'm sure you can imagine, presented this choice, a lot of people said, you know what, the Navy life is for me, so for king and country, eh? During this time, as you can imagine, with the daily rum ration, there was no regulations for it. From 1600s-ish to about 1739, you were given a half pint of rum per day, which, if you ask me, is a lot. And there was no regulation. So you could be just drinking it all day. You could have it down in a couple big gulps. And this resulted, as I'm sure you can imagine, a lot of drunkenness on duty. We couldn't go get Blackbeard guys because we were all too hammered. And so an Admiral, Edward Vernon, shows up on the scene roughly 1739, takes a look around, and decides to amend and start putting some parameters around the daily rum ration. So in this case, it was actually doled out once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and it was issued with rum, lime, and sugar as well to be mixed together. And it's called grog because Edward Vernon was known for wearing a very distinctive grogum boat cloak. Rum ration is cut down, it's reduced, and this, as I'm sure you can imagine, cuts down on the drunkenness on duty. And also, an inadvertent discovery, the good old Admiral solved the scurvy dilemma that had been plaguing the British for centuries by incorporating limes into that grog. What's exciting during this period of the early 1800s is folks start blending rums from different islands together. So the name that we would know most notably today would be Lemon Heart. Yep, Lemon Heart Rum, Lemon Heart and Sons, and E&A Sheer, or as the Dutch would say, Scheer. These folks start blending rums from Worthy Park, Money Musk, Long Pond, Albion, Port Morant, and a few other very distinctive distilleries like the now extinct Mount Gilboa. So Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, or at that point it was Demerara, and they're blending all these rums together, and the rum ration is thriving. Not only is it thriving, but when sailors return from their voyages and they get home, they're demanding rum, and even sugar barons, colonizers, if you will, they're still colonizing, they are enjoying rum. Rum is seen as a prominent drink, not just some cheap beverage. We're now in the 1900s, and here's where things get really dicey for the Royal Rum Ration, or the tot. As advances in technology are happening and there's more sophisticated machinery, the Admiralty really starts to debate whether it's prudent to have sailors drinking on duty. So we go through World War I, we go through World War II, and in the 50s and 60s, the debates really ramp up to the point where it is decided by the Admiralty that the Royal Rum Ration will come to an end, much to the dismay of many, many sailors. And on July 30th, 1970, the last bells ring for the final rum ration, and that is the end of British sailors drinking on duty. That wasn't quite the end for the rum that was blended, however. So a few decades later, Sukhinder Singh approaches the British Royal Navy about stone flagons containing rum from the 1950s and 60s and asks if he can purchase them because he wants to create a brand to honor the Royal Rum Ration. The British Navy agrees, and the result in 2009 is the creation of Black Tot rum. And this bottle right here, well, not this one, there are many like it, but this is the Black Tot Last Consignment. And this is a blend of the exact rums that British sailors would have been enjoying in the 1960s all the way up until July 30th, 1970. If you don't know Black Tot, the brand, they have an amazing story, and they are paying homage, or homage, if you will, however you want to pronounce that. Let me know in the comments how you pronounce it, to the history of the Daily Rum Ration, the Tot, and to be able to own a bottle of this very historic rum is probably the crown jewel of my collection, and I have some amazing rums. Next time, I'll be doing a tasting of this bad boy. But in the meantime, thank you all so much. We'll see you next time.